a dark winter morning. As snow fell in heavy flakes, an elderly blind Labrador entered the cemetery's iron gate with trembling legs. He lifted his cold, wet nose to the air, finding his way through scents. Cemetery caretaker Robert Wilson, a weathered man with kind eyes that had seen too much sorrow, dropped his shovel in astonishment. The dog moved without hesitation, as if his eyes could see, navigating between the gravestones to reach a small grave. He gently lay down, placing his head on his paws, and began to wait. Tears flowed from his cloudy eyes onto his white fur, while Robert brought his hand to his mouth. "Impossible," he whispered. The cemetery, nestled between ancient oak trees at the edge of Mapleton, had stood for over a century. Robert had worked there for nearly 3 decades, witnessing countless mourners come and go, but nothing had prepared him for this dog's dedication. The first time he saw the Labrador was during a fierce thunderstorm 7 years ago. Everyone had fled the torrential rain, but there was the dog, soaked to the bone, lying on a fresh grave. Robert had tried to shoo him away, thinking he was a stray, but something in the animal's determined posture stopped him. The dog had stayed through the night, and Robert had arrived the next morning expecting him to be gone. But there he was, still waiting, still watching, as if guarding something precious that only he could see. Keep reading to discover how this story began and the event that brought everyone to tears at the end. Because this tale of loyalty proves that love truly is stronger than death. Robert Wilson, the small-town cemetery caretaker, 58 years old with graying hair and tired eyes, had been watching the same scene for 7 years. Every morning, regardless of weather conditions, a blind Labrador would come to the cemetery and sit for hours at the same grave. Robert had named him Faithful because he had never seen such loyalty in any living being. The cemetery of Mapleton wasn't just Robert's workplace, it was his sanctuary. After losing his wife to cancer 15 years ago, the quiet company of the departed became his solace. He knew every headstone, every epitaph, every story behind the names etched in stone. His small caretaker's cottage sat at the edge of the grounds, overlooking the rolling hills of graves that stretched toward the eastern horizon. Robert's daughter, Jessica, constantly urged him to retire, to move to the city with her, but he couldn't bear to leave. Not just because of his wife's grave that he tended daily with fresh flowers, but now because of Faithful. The dog had become part of his daily routine, a living reminder that love could transcend the boundaries between life and death. Local children would often ask about the cemetery dog, and Robert found himself becoming the keeper of not just the graves, but of this remarkable story of devotion that unfolded before him day after day. Today was another cold February morning. Snow covered everything, and the gravestones waited silently under their white blankets. Robert sat in his warm cottage, sipping his coffee, when he heard the cemetery's iron gate creak. He looked at his watch. Exactly 7:15. Punctual as always. "Here he comes again," Robert murmured to himself. Looking out the window, he saw Faithful making his way through the snow, leaving tracks with his trembling legs. The dog had aged, his fur had whitened, his eyes no longer saw, but he reached the same grave without ever getting lost. The cottage, a small structure built in the 1920s, had become Robert's refuge. The walls were lined with photographs, his late wife, Margaret, their daughter Jessica as a child, and more recently, several snapshots of Faithful. The latest addition was a photo taken by Ellie Bennett, the town's photographer, capturing the moment Faithful rested his head on the gravestone, bathed in golden morning light. The image had been shared throughout Mapleton and even appeared in the county newspaper. Outside, the temperature had dropped to 15 degrees, and Robert worried about the old dog. He had built a small shelter near the grave last winter. Nothing fancy, just a wooden box with a roof and some blankets, but Faithful rarely used it. Dr. Peterson, the local veterinarian, had examined Faithful once when Robert managed to lure him close enough with some premium dog food. "He's around 10 years old," Dr. Peterson had said, "blind from cataracts, but otherwise healthy, considering his circumstances." The vet had offered to take Faithful in, but Robert knew it would be futile. The dog's place was here, with whatever memories kept him returning day after day. Robert wondered, who is this dog waiting for so faithfully? Who deserves such love? For 7 years, this dog, coming at the same time every day, had attracted everyone's attention at the cemetery. People had tried to feed him, tried to take him home, but Faithful always escaped and returned to the cemetery. Many people were curious about this dog's story. Some thought he was visiting his former owner's grave. Others said the dog was lost and had coincidentally stayed at the cemetery. But nobody knew the truth, until one day when Robert noticed the name on the gravestone the dog was visiting. The mystery of Faithful had become something of a local legend in Mapleton. Tourists would sometimes visit just to see the loyal dog. Children from Mapleton Elementary School had even written stories about him for their creative writing assignments. Mrs. Abernathy, who ran the town's historical society, had included Faithful in her tour of local landmarks, even though the dog's story was still unfolding. Samuel Green, the town's aspiring filmmaker and Robert's nephew, had attempted to document Faithful's daily routine. He'd set up cameras around the cemetery, capturing the dog's unwavering commitment to his vigil. "There's something almost supernatural about it," Samuel had told Robert while reviewing the footage. "He arrives at exactly 7:15 every morning, sits for precisely 4 hours, and then leaves. It's like clockwork." The footage revealed something else, too. On stormy nights, when the wind howled through the cemetery trees, Faithful would pace around the grave, as if protecting it from unseen forces. Robert had witnessed this behavior himself during overnight shifts, watching from his cottage window as the dog performed his solemn patrol, a guardian between worlds. Emily Johnson. She had died in 2013 at the age of 17. Robert began searching through the town's newspaper archives. It didn't take long to find Emily Johnson's story. The young girl had lost her life in a traffic accident, and the most interesting detail, there was a black Labrador with her during the incident. Could it be? Robert thought. Could this dog be Emily's? Robert continued his research. He wanted to find Emily's family. This wasn't difficult in the small town. The Johnson family still lived in the same house, but they had isolated themselves from society after their daughter's death. The archives of the Mapleton Gazette revealed more than just Emily's tragic accident. There were numerous photos of Emily with her beloved dog, at dog shows where they'd won ribbons, at the annual Founders' Day parade where she'd dressed him as a superhero, at her 16th birthday party where he wore a party hat. The captions identified the dog as Max, a purebred Labrador given to Emily on her 10th birthday. The newspaper had run a feature story about Emily just months before her death. She had trained Max to become a therapy dog, visiting nursing homes and children's hospitals. Max has this special ability to sense exactly what people need, Emily had told the reporter. Sometimes it's playfulness, sometimes it's just quiet companionship. As Robert dug deeper, he discovered that Emily had been a remarkable young woman, honor student, volunteer at the animal shelter, and according to her obituary, planning to become a veterinarian. The accident happened on a rainy night, as she was returning from a therapy dog session at Mapleton General Hospital. A truck had lost control on the slippery road, crossing into her lane. The newspaper mentioned that her dog had been in the car, but had disappeared from the scene. The Johnson family had posted flyers around town for weeks, offering a reward for Max's return. One Saturday morning, Robert gathered his courage and knocked on the Johnson family's door. Sarah Johnson opened the door, looking at him with angry eyes. "Yes?" "Mrs. Johnson, I'm Robert Wilson, the cemetery caretaker. I'd like to ask you something about your daughter Emily." Sarah's expression changed. "What do you want to know about Emily? Did she have a dog?" A black Labrador? Sarah's eyes filled with tears. Max? Yes, he was Emily's best friend. In the accident, he was in the car too, but he disappeared. We searched for weeks but couldn't find him. Eventually, we thought he had died. The Johnson home stood on Maple Street, once the most cheerfully decorated house during holidays, now bearing the unmistakable weight of grief. The garden, once Emily's pride with its vibrant flowers, had grown wild and untended. Through the open door, Robert could see the living room walls covered with Emily's photographs. In almost every picture, Max was by her side. Sarah Johnson had aged far beyond her 45 years, grief etching deep lines around her eyes. Once the director of Mapleton's community theater, she had resigned after Emily's death. Her husband Michael, formerly the town's most outgoing high school football coach, had become withdrawn, taking a desk job at the school district office. The community had tried to support them, meals delivered, offers of companionship, invitations to events, but the Johnsons had retreated into their private world of loss. Emily rescued Max when he was just a puppy, Sarah continued, her voice steadier now. Some teenager had bought him as a fashion accessory and abandoned him when he grew too big. Emily found him tied to a tree in the park, half-starved. She nursed him back to health, and they were inseparable from that day forward. After the accident, her voice broke. Searching for Max was the only thing that got me out of bed. Michael spent every weekend for months putting up posters, checking shelters, driving around calling his name. But eventually, ... Robert took a deep breath. Mrs. Johnson, I believe Max is alive, and he's been visiting Emily's grave every day for 7 years. Sarah's knees buckled. Her husband Michael rushed over and held her. What did you say? Robert explained everything. The blind dog coming at the same time every morning for 7 years, sitting for hours at the grave, refusing to be adopted by anyone. Michael and Sarah Johnson waited with Robert at the cemetery the next morning. At 7:15, the iron gate creaked, and the elderly, blind Labrador entered. As always, he made his way to Emily's grave without hesitation. The night before had been sleepless for the Johnsons. They had taken out all of Max's old things, his bed, his favorite toys, his leash with the paw print pattern that Emily had chosen. Sarah had washed his old blanket, letting tears fall freely as the scent of fabric softener replaced years of dust. Michael had found a recording of Emily calling Max for dinner, a video from happier times that they hadn't been able to watch since the accident. They played it repeatedly, their daughter's voice filling their home once more. Max, dinner time, buddy. Dr. Amanda Peterson waited with them too, having brought equipment to check Max's health once they made contact. If it really is Max, he'll need immediate medical attention, she warned. Living outdoors for 7 years at his age? The veterinarian had known Max and Emily well. The girl had volunteered at her clinic every Saturday. She'd been devastated by Emily's death and had helped organize the search for Max, never imagining he had been so close all along, keeping his own vigil. As they waited in Robert's cottage, peering through the window, Sarah clutched Max's old collar in her hands. It was blue with silver stars. Emily had said it matched the sparkle in Max's eyes. What if he doesn't remember us? Sarah whispered. Michael squeezed her hand. He will, he said with unexpected certainty. Some bonds can't be broken. Max, Sarah called out with a trembling voice. The dog stopped. He turned his head toward the sound. His nostrils flared, sniffing the air, and then he made a sound no one had heard in 7 years. He barked. With joy and excitement, he barked and started running toward the voice. Sarah knelt down, opening her arms. When Max reached her, he nuzzled into her neck and began to cry. Michael also knelt beside them, his hands trembling as he stroked Max's fur. We're going home, Max, Sarah said through tears. We're finally going home. The moment of recognition was electric. Max, who had been silent for so long, suddenly transformed. His tail, which had hung limply for years, now wagged with such force that his entire body shook. Despite his blindness, he moved with the certainty of absolute recognition, navigating not by scent or memory, but by something deeper, by heart. Jessica Wilson, Robert's daughter who had come to witness the reunion, filmed the entire scene on her phone. Later, the video would be viewed millions of times online, bringing tears to strangers around the world. But in that moment, no one was thinking about sharing the story. They were simply living it. Max's bark echoed across the cemetery, bouncing off gravestones and reaching into the sky, a sound of pure joy that broke 7 years of silence. The dog, who had been known only as Faithful, was reclaiming his identity, his family, his name. He circled around Sarah and Michael, pressing against their legs, jumping up despite his arthritic joints, whimpering and barking in a symphony of emotions too complex for human language. Dr. Peterson watched in amazement. "I've never seen anything like this," she whispered to Robert. "His entire physiology has changed in an instant." Indeed, Max looked younger somehow, energized by recognition and reunion. When he finally calmed enough to let Sarah hold him properly, he licked the tears from her face, his cloudy eyes somehow managing to lock with hers in a gaze that transcended visual connection. After that day, Max returned to the Johnson family home. He slept in Emily's room, next to her bed. But every morning at 7:15, Michael or Sarah would take him to the cemetery. Max would lie down at the grave, spend a few hours there, and then return home. A year later, on a cold winter morning, Max lay down at Emily's grave as usual. He closed his eyes and never opened them again. The faithful friend had taken his last breath beside the girl he loved. The Johnson family buried Max next to Emily. They had the following words inscribed on his tombstone: "Max, symbol of loyalty and love, finally reunited with his Emily." Max's return had gradually transformed the Johnson household. Color returned to their lives, literally as Sarah replanted Emily's garden with Max, supervising from a cushioned bed on the porch. Michael started coaching again, bringing Max to practices where the old dog would lie at the sidelines, instantly becoming the team's unofficial mascot. The Mapleton Bulldogs dedicated their season to Max's loyalty, winning the state championship for the first time in 20 years. Sarah established the Max and Emily Foundation, providing therapy dogs to children's hospitals and funding veterinary care for elderly pets. Their first fundraiser featured Dr. Peterson telling Max's story, leaving not a dry eye in the room. The foundation's logo, designed by Jessica Wilson, showed a dog silhouette sitting beside a gravestone with a heart hovering above them both. During that final year, Max accompanied the Johnsons everywhere. Though blind and increasingly frail, he seemed determined to make up for lost time. Sarah would describe how he would sometimes stop and tilt his head, as if hearing Emily's voice from somewhere beyond. "He's living in 2 worlds," she told Robert during their daily cemetery visits. "Part here with us, part already with her." When Max passed away, the entire town of Mapleton attended his funeral. Children released blue balloons, Emily's favorite color, as Michael carried Max's small coffin to the plot beside Emily's grave that the cemetery board had unanimously approved. Today, in the Johnson family's small town, people still tell this story. To anyone who doubts the power of love, they tell Max's story, because sometimes love is stronger than death. And if you ever pass through a cemetery and see a dog waiting by a gravestone, please don't disturb it. It might just be waiting for someone it loves, forever. If this story touched you, please remember to like and share. Let's spread the loyalty and love that animals show throughout the world. And remember, sometimes the most special bonds are formed without ever speaking a word. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and turn on your notifications. Stay tuned for more emotional stories. Max's legacy lives on in Mapleton and beyond. The town erected a bronze statue of him at the cemetery entrance, a Labrador sitting vigilantly, eyes focused on the horizon. Visitors often leave dog treats or small toys at its base. The local elementary school established an annual loyalty day, teaching children about commitment and faithfulness through Max's extraordinary example. Dr. Peterson published a scientific paper about Max's case in a veterinary journal, exploring the neurological and psychological aspects of his unwavering devotion. Animal behaviorists from universities across the country visited Mapleton to study the phenomenon. Their conclusion was both scientific and poetic. While the behavioral patterns exhibited by Max can be partially explained through established canine attachment theories, the duration and precision of his cemetery visits suggests something beyond current scientific understanding, a bond that transcends conventional animal-human attachment. Robert Wilson retired 2 years after Max's passing, but still visits the cemetery daily. He maintains both graves with special care, often telling new visitors the story. "In 35 years of working here," he always says, "I've learned that gravestones only tell half the story. The rest is written in the hearts of those left behind." The Johnson family found healing through Max's return. Sarah now counsels grieving pet owners, helping them navigate loss and remembrance. Michael coaches a special needs sports program where therapy dogs, all trained through the Max and Emily Foundation, assist children with disabilities. Perhaps most remarkably, the story continues to inspire. Countless lost pets have been found because their owners refused to give up, citing Max's 7-year wait as their motivation to keep searching. A children's book, Max's Faithful Heart, became a bestseller, teaching young readers about love that endures beyond separation. In a world often moving too fast to notice quiet devotion, Max's story remains a powerful reminder that some bonds truly are unbreakable. This brings us to the end of this story. Thank you for watching till the end. I hope you enjoyed the story. If you did, don't hesitate to like the video and share it with your friends too. Subscribe to our channel and turn on the notification bell for more fascinating stories. Have a nice day.